Welcome, Wapplers. This is the Wappler January 2024 Meetup, where we talk about everything Wappler. Today we're having a conversation about Wappler 6.0, and we're welcoming any Wappler that wanted to present on Wappler. You've got a favorite tip, trick, or hint. You want to demonstrate a site, we'd love to hear from you. Next month, we have Scott Klee, who's going to be demonstrating his Impress solution, which allows you to bring your Figma designs automatically into Wappler. He's got some exciting new updates planned for us. But for today, we're going to talk about Wappler 6.0. And I'm going to start by asking Keith, please give us your thoughts on 6.0 and what do you think?
Put me on the spot. It is, I like it. It's, it has a lot of bug improvements, things that have, for other features that they have been, implementing over the last couple of years. They're finally like cleaning up some challenges that I've had. So that's good. I haven't really played a whole lot with the, the new visual flow designer part. I've mainly been sticking with the old version. I just think it's a little bit more compact and easier to use. But I think all the other features have been really good, and I'm liking them and using them slowly as I build my app.
Awesome. What kind of app are you building, Keith?
I'm working on a work management app. So it's going to combine a bunch of the things you may normally do in day-to-day work, like, chat and task management and things like that.
Cool. That sounds exciting. Well, we'd love to see it. If you'd like to demo it to the Wappler community at any time in the future. But you mentioned bug fixes. Which bug fixes? What are the top bug fixes that you appreciated?
Oh, there's a slew of them. Probably too many to talk about. I mean, they're things related to the capacitor SQL, PouchDB, those types of items, things related to the database when you're using those.
Mm-hmm.
And many others. I can't rattle them off without going back and looking at all the bug reports that I submitted.
Oh, that's good. Those Patch and Couch are just like the last year or so. They brought it on board, and it sounds like they're tightening things up. That's really cool. Jay from San Antonio, you want to chime in and tell us what you think of 6.0?
Oh, excuse me. Yeah, I love all the new features, everything that has on it, especially the multiple screens. I'm somewhat spoiled. I've got 4 screens, and it's really nice to spread that thing across it. Outside of the great features and all the.
Sorry, Jay, how do you find that reliability-wise across multiple screens?
Oh, I found it well, excuse me. When it first came out, which was it, 602, I think it was. And it was quirky. You would open up one, you would try to display it, it wouldn't close, would close the whole thing. I mean, I could go back and forth in details. I can't exactly remember, but I believe that they've gotten that worked out now. So I find it a heck of a lot more stable. What some of the smallest things that have taken place is some of the features have gone away. They're no longer present in the App Connect. Something like the cart. When you go to the cart and whatnot, you put in an add to cart button. It doesn't display all the information of the App Connect on the right-hand side, showing you, which items you can add to it. It works if you hand code it in there, but it's not in there. They're aware of that. Theodore helped me out tremendously here at the end of the year with a major problem that I'm making aware of on the cart itself. Called it my rig, called it my program. I don't know what it was. But I found that only, 5.8.9? Is that 8.9 or 8.2? One prior. That one was the most stable one. I currently have to go back to it because of the features that I'm using. They're not displayed in the new one. One of the weirdest things was the config file for the Stripe. You put your Stripe secret code up in the back end. When you hit save, it's supposed to save it up. Mine would not. It was not up in the cloud. He went to check the thing out. I manually had to go and FTP up the config file itself for it to go and take effect. That man, poor man, helped me out for a good 10 days trying to figure out what was wrong with my program. Only to come find it was not FTPing up. And I looked in a couple other, which memory didn't serve correct right now, but I did look up into some of the other posts that some other gentlemen had that same problem in FTPing in one way or another. So these are the small little idiosyncrasies that I've come to come find out of it. I'm working on a jewelry e-commerce site right now, and I just want all those additional features to show up. So I had to go back to 5.8.9 to finish it out. But since that Theodore helped me with that, helped me with a couple of things having to do with Stripe and whatnot, those features that weren't there. So I sincerely believe, yeah, he's very well aware of it, and they're going to make that improvement here when they get back on board at the beginning of this year.
Oh, hopefully all that'll be fixed fairly soon then.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. That's a critical component.
Very much so, yeah. The Stripe itself was driving me nuts. It just was, but getting around the curve.
Yeah. All right. Well, congratulations on the steps you're taking moving forward. What do you think of the visual flow, Jay?
Visual flow is great. That last meeting we had where George was up here doing the presentation, I'm not so heavy into utilizing all the features that they made available for the database back end. I'm more of a creature of habit. One other monitor, I've got everything open up in cPanel. That's where I play on my database, not within Wappler itself. But visually, workflow, everything working. I mean, to me, everything is proper. Everything works very well, especially once again that you could expand it to multiple screens. It gives you a heck of a lot more room.
It's interesting. I'm exactly the same as you. I'm still not really using the database manager, although I love the concept of all the changes that you make to the structure on your dev server to then roll that across to your live server, so you don't miss. Oh, yeah, I created that field, or I renamed this, or I removed that. So I love the concept of it, but I just find I don't know whether it's because I haven't used it enough. When I have used it, it's just done little things that I've thought, oh, why did it do that? And you lose confidence.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I use Navicat for all my database work, and I just keep manual notes of I've added this table, or I've added that field, or I've changed this, or whatever, and I have to just go through those notes and manually do them again on the live server when I deploy.
Mm-hmm.
But the workflow would be so much better to use the database manager, and that's what they've created it for. But for me,
it works well. Yeah, I mean, there are those little challenges if you don't do things exactly right. There have been issues with like having to try to refresh the database, and there's like multiple areas that you can try to refresh, and unless you go down directly to the table and refresh there, sometimes it doesn't work. So outside of that, I think it works fantastic. I also agree. I mean, some of the additional features they're starting to build in, like database templates, is really powerful long term. I mean, I think that gets to the point where you can literally create a whole app with all of the the normal like I would say like app values that you need in that database, and be able to give it to a user, and they'll have it already pre-populated. So I think those things are really powerful, and hopefully they continue to improve it.
Yeah, the concept I think is brilliant. I've just found I'm just not. Yeah, I'm not 100% confident enough that I just fear that I'm going to say, right, okay, publish this to the live site, and something's not going to go quite right. But the risk with databases is if it doesn't quite go right, you might not know it hasn't gone right until days or weeks down the line, when suddenly someone says this has stopped working, and you've got no idea, well, why is that stopped working? And it turns out it was something from earlier.
Right.
That's whereas doing it manually, I know, right, I have made that structural change to the database. That is done. That's where I'm coming from, but it might be I'm just stuck in the dark ages with how I do things.
I've experienced the database manager has come a long way since it's launched. It's way more stable than it used to be. and I think they're heading in the right direction.
Oh, completely.
But when
Yeah.
you think about it from a business perspective, there's a slew of database managers out there like Navicat and others that are their whole business model is based on managing databases, and Wappler is trying to include that in with the Wappler, which is the Swiss Army knife of website development. So it's a big ask, but they're heading in the right direction. That's
Yeah,
pretty cool.
agreed.
Welcome our old friend Bob from the Lake of the Ozarks, another one in the U.S. and a rock star and radio personality. You should hear this guy play; he's amazing.
Morning.
And you could help me pronounce it. Is it Azos? Tezos? How is that pronounced? Any ideas?
Okay.
If you pronounce your name, welcome.
Oh, I'm Tasso.
Tessa.
Nice to meet you all. Yeah.
Nice to meet you.
I'm not talking very well, and I cannot understand when you talk fast. Anyway, we'll manage to do it.
You're awesome. Thank you so much for joining us. What country are you from?
Greece.
Greece.
I'm from Greece, Athens. Yeah.
Awesome. Very good. Beautiful country. All right, Bob, what do you think of 6.0?
Well, I'm still running 5. I haven't made the update yet. I've got several very, very large sites that are ASP Classic, and at this point, I'm afraid to make the move until I have confirmation that I'll be able to edit some of that stuff. So I'm just kind of waiting on. I sent an email to Patrick to see, what do you think? I mean, is the ASP just been completely taken out, or I just been so busy I haven't had a chance, and I'm scared to make the move before for sure. At least I can do what I did before with the new version.
Have you tried it at all?
No, not really. I haven't. I'm too busy trying to build websites. Because what happens is I've got this stuff that's sitting on ASP, and historically, whenever there's a new version, then there's a list of problems, and I don't have time to troubleshoot that at this point. I've got people yelling at me because I got coding I need to get finished, and I know I can get that done with where I'm at 5. Some of the sites I'm moving to ASP.NET, but it's taken me a little bit of time to get that done. There's not a clear migration path for that, so I'm kind of trying to figure out what I want to do there. So I'm kind of holding off. Typically, I don't like to just jump in right when the first versions of stuff comes out, because historically I'm the one guy that always has problems, and so I'm just kind of, if I could get be able to use a 5 version and be able to use a new Wappler on my newer projects, that would be excellent. But at this point, I don't think we can. I have a request in to see if I could do that, but at this point, I'm holding off.
Yeah, it's interesting because while they're in the beta cycles, you can have both installed.
Yep.
You can't run them simultaneously, but you can exit and load. And so if you have a project in 5, you can go into 5 and then quit out, load up 6, do a new project in 6. But as soon as they go for final release, you lose that feature. And I think they should, whether it's an app ID or something that allows, why can they do that with the beta cycle and not for the final release? I don't know, because it will be lovely to, I say lovely to, I go back 20 odd years. I used to have different versions of Dreamweaver installed, because you had projects that were built at different times. And so, you ended up with 3, 4, 5 versions, all sort of the final release of the major version, but they were sitting on the machine happily coexisting. And as much as they are going to want to encourage us to be on the latest version because it helps them support, and they don't want to be having to support old versions. Equally, we're working probably like you. I'm working on projects that I started 4 or 5 years ago,
Yeah.
and you get yourself in quite a problem where some projects I might have started 5 years ago and I've not actually touched for 2 years because I've not needed touching. And then suddenly, right, I'm going to open that up in 6 and it's going to say, right, there's 70 files that need updating. You think, oh, do I update them? And that's the kind of thing. Whereas they seem to be quite confident to say, yeah, update them, it'll be fine. But it's not until you do and you realize it isn't fine.
Well, if there's gonna be an issue, typically and historically, I will find it.
There can't be many.
And then we run into an issue. It's usually late in the day when I'm in central United States, so it's late in the day when I start having problems, and then kind of getting any kind of help is 24 hours away minimum to and I kind of get stuck. The forum actually is very, very useful. I find so much support there anymore. I don't necessarily always need Theodore or Patrick or whomever to troubleshoot a problem, because sometimes it's some of the simpler problems. But that's where I get into, and I'm like, let's let it go through a few iterations to let some other people find the problems, and then once we're what, at 6.0.5, I think, is that where we're at now? Yeah, 6.1, I'm starting to go, well, that's probably, maybe it's time for me to jump in and make the commitment there, just because I get so swamped with stuff I have to get done. I'm not a beta channel guy. I'm not in there testing stuff. I need the stuff to work when I need it to work, and that's the issue that I come up against.
Yeah, I think I'm exactly the same as you. I have made the switch. I'm on 605, but I'm not using ASP. So mind you, having said that, I'm still, because I'm working with projects that I started many years ago, I'm still locked into PHP. Right. And haven't made the transition to Node.js just because it means rebuilding sites, and I haven't got the time, and I can't charge to do that because it'd be my choice. So it's kind of right. I've just have to stick with it, and it's what I know. So I've not yet seen anything really that Node.js offers that PHP can't do, apart from PouchDB and CouchDB. That I think is going to be the thing that does it for me. So I've not jumped on those yet as a result.
But you mentioned can't charge for what are you using a business model where you build the site and charge them for the site and then charge them for hosting? Or are you using a subscription model where you include updates as part of the subscription?
I'm building bespoke projects for clients, so I'm charging them for my time developing, providing the hosting as well. So we've got dedicated servers and whatever, so supporting there. But if I was going to say, right, I'm going to switch from PHP to Node.js, I couldn't go to the client, right, you're going to end up with exactly the same application, looking the same, feeling the same, acting the same, but it's going to be rebuilt from the ground up and it's going to cost this. I just couldn't do that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, if there was a particular thing they wanted to do and it can only be done in Node, then that would be the point where I'd say, well, look, we're into a rebuild here. But if it's a project I only built 2 or 3 years ago, they're not going to be too chuffed at the idea of having to start again. One of the projects I'm working on at the moment was done by another developer 20 odd years ago in Access. So what I'm building is replacing that system, which is huge. Now that's 20 years down the line, so they're happy to reinvest because they know they've had 20 years use out the old one. But I couldn't do that 2 or 3 years.
It seems to me that websites are sort of aged sort of like dog years. they say dogs age 7 years for every compared to a human. And when you get a website that's 7 years old, you got a 21-year-old dog that needs to be replaced. But anyway, that's just me. So
No, there is an element of truth in that. And there's new things come out, new technologies, new frameworks, new all sorts of things that get you excited and think, oh, I could do that. And then you think, oh no, I can't because.
right.
And Wappler is similar. They're bringing out some great new stuff, and I'm really hoping that there's some of the core stuff that hasn't been done, like for instance Google reCAPTCHA. We're still stuck on version 2. Google Maps would love. I mean, it popped up I think yesterday in the forum, trying to get the feature requests for Leaflet.js and OpenStreetMap and whatever as an option. There's things like that I'd love them to say, right, this week we've finished blah blah blah. You know, two-factor authentication natively would be great. There's lots of things that I think would really help it move on, whereas 6 seems to me to be more under the hood stuff.
Right. Plus the
Yeah.
visual flow. So you mentioned feature requests. Do you have any feature requests up, like 2FA being a native 2FA, for example?
Who, me?
Or is there a feature request up for 2FA?
Yeah, there's feature requests for all these things, and every now and again I'll bump it to just check it's not been completely forgotten.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't quite got my head round what determines which feature requests get acted on. They kind of say, I think the official line is, the more people that vote for it, the more chance it's going to get of happening. But there's one, I forget what it is off the top of my head, but there's one feature request that's got 70 or 80 votes, and it's been there for 4 or 5 years. And so I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like some of those they have their internal roadmap of, where they want to go with the product. And, if some of those feature requests align with that, then they're more apt to develop them. And depending on how many people say, yeah, I need it, as long as it's not going to, hurt their internal roadmap, then they're likely to implement it. And some of those, some of the feature requests are really large, right? They take a lot of time to develop. Things like Passport.js, which would include two-factor authentication, I think is one of the components of Passport. Sounds like they're working on that, and that's a big feature. And they're a small team, and I think that's the challenge, right? It's like, all of us need Wappler, the Wappler team to be bigger in order to, be able to add all the feature requests we want. But at the same time, then that probably would, require them to charge more so they can hire more people. And so, I like where the pricing is. I don't want to be paying, $1,000 a month for it. So I think it's always a challenge of, how much can they, actually accomplish with the 3+ people that they have.
Yeah. And for me, documentation is still a massive issue.
Yeah, that's huge.
And
it is a big challenge.
Always has been. And I did employ 1 or 2 people with a remit for doing that, but I don't think they're there anymore. I'd love to know. I'm curious as to how many actual subscribing users there are to the software. Because I'm sure there must be a budget for adding 1 or 2 people to the team with a total 100% focus on doing really good documentation that is kept up to date. Because any software and the beta cycle, you don't expect the documentation to be up to date, but as soon as it's stable release, documentation should be part of the stable release. But it's never, there's always, the forum is active because we're not finding the answers in the docs, or the answers are out of date. Sounds like I'm on a complaining drive. I'm not. I absolutely love it, and it's
Well, that's
it's-
probably the biggest complaint. Yeah, in all reality, is the documentation not being current. When you're trying to develop something so fast, there's not time to go back and do the documentation, or they look at look at this on the form and it's similar but it's not the same. I mean, I think that's a one of the weakest points of the whole thing. I think is how quick the documentation is updated.
yeah. I'm making what I think is going to be a really good extension, and I think it's going to be useful to a lot of people when it's done. But I can't finish it because I've hit an issue. I've put it on the forum. It's got Patrick assigned to look into it, but it's like 3 days now, and nothing as yet. I can't carry on with it. I'm literally at a complete halt, which is really frustrating.
I've encountered those along the way for the last 4+ years. It definitely slows down the development cycle when you're trying to use these new features that they implement, even for Stripe. Like there's some things where, I mean, they've done an impressive job of just adding all the different parts of the Stripe API, but they're missing little pieces. Like if you get into, what was I doing the other day? Oh, subscription. So I'm trying to set up subscription in my app. And there's like one part of the API that allows you to not accept credit cards when the person initially sets up the subscription. That feature is not built into the UI that Wappler's created. So it kind of makes my ability to go in the direction I want to go limited. I either have to create the API myself and just do away with the UI that they built, or wait for them to add that feature in whenever that may be.
It's a double-edged sword. They've been working really hard to build, use the phrase again, Swiss Army knife of web app development, and they're putting in. I mean, it's a really powerful tool, and they're developing a lot of things awful fast. And
it's a term they use called the bleeding edge of technology.
That's it.
If you're on the forefront, sometimes there's a little blood involved trying to get to that next stage, just because if you're ahead of everybody else, then you just have to figure it out.
Yeah, they're doing an impressive job. I mean, I think their vision is there. It's just taking a long time to get there. I mean, just the whole point of like, we're able to build extensions now if you have those, expertise. And I think that's where it's like, if the user base can grow, you can get to the point where there's enough users that want these things. Then you bring in the other side where, just like WordPress or these other, systems, that there's a huge ecosystem that people are just developing plugins. So at some point, maybe Wappler will get to that user base where there's enough demand that somebody thinks it's a good idea to start a business of just creating these extensions and, selling them for a monthly subscription.
Well, that's
So
how
I can, yeah, on Wappler. I mean, I can see that in the future. They're like almost there. We just, I feel like there just needs to be a little bit more users, and then, somebody who wants to take that initiative to start releasing, whatever the community is asking for, and trying to, make a monthly subscription out of it.
That's how Wappler started, building extensions to Dreamweaver, right?
That's correct.
DMX Zone.
Yep.
So that, but it's Keith, thanks for joining us. I look forward to talking to you in the future. Take care.
Yeah, Keith.
All right. Well, we've had a nice conversation about Wappler 6. Talked about some of the good and some of the things that are being improving in the future. I want to thank everybody for joining us today. I also want to put a little commercial in. We have these monthly meetups on the first Friday of every month. You can keep track of the dates and times and get links in the forum. Next month, we have a very special treat. We have Scott Klee, also from the UK, to keep John company. Is going to be presenting his Impress, talk about plugins. He's got an Impress solution that allows you to take your Figma designs and import them into Wappler. And he's added some new features to it. So keep an eye out for that in February. We're looking for a Wappler to present a solution in March. So if you've got a special tip or trick or a solution that works for you and you want to help the other Wapplers out, feel free to reach out to Mark One on the forum. Until then, I wish all you Wapplers out there a very safe and prosperous new year. And I look forward to seeing you next month. Be well, everyone. Take care.
All right, sounds good.
Thanks, Mark. See you all.
Thank you.